Elon Musk's purchase of Twitter now sinking in. His first order of business, cleaning house. The new Twitter owner reportedly fired 4 top executives, including CEO Parag Agrawal. Meanwhile, Twitter's stock is suspended and an official delisting is set for Tuesday. What's next for the company and its investors? Columbia University's professor of law Eric Talley joins us now to weigh in. Professor Talley, this has been a saga, to say the least. What do you think is Elon Musk's first order of business and challenge as he takes reins of this company?
Well, he's got a cash flow problem he eventually has to solve. His probably first challenge is sort of a big meet and greet. Remember, he spent 6 months being sort of an adversary to everyone at Twitter, sometimes scaring away employees. And a lot of the employees right now are pretty unsure whether they're even going to have a job next week. So I think that's probably the first mission of damage control or mitigation. But ultimately, he's got to turn this company into a little bit more of a revenue generating entity.
Let's talk about that potential of cuts at Twitter, because there were reports last week that he could potentially cut 75% of the workforce, and obviously Elon Musk sort of came out and walked that back. But there's a financial calculation that's happening here, right? I mean, he has just taken over this company, as you point out, that has struggled. We had our legal reporter Alexis Keenan on earlier saying in some ways it benefits Twitter to fire employees because then you don't necessarily have to pay out the stock compensation that's not vested. Can you kind of break that down for us?
Yeah, the employees at Twitter, just like many of the senior executives, have some of their compensation in terms of stock and bonuses and, options and so forth. There is a coming payment for many of the employees that's coming next week. And some have speculated, and I'm relatively confident, at least it's a conversation on the table as to whether if there's going to be a reduction in staff, it would predate the date at which that payment has to be made. It's a little perilous, however, because, while the courts in California will, let you let go of at-will employees, if you do so merely to avoid having to pay them compensation for services already rendered, that can be a problem. So there is a little bit of a legal sticking point here, as well as a morale sticking point. You don't necessarily want to hand the pink slips to a bunch of your employees while simultaneously stiffing them. That's not going to leave behind a lot of happy campers.
I'm wondering if Elon Musk has put himself between a rock and a hard place when it comes to this Twitter acquisition, basically, or buying this company. And because of this, if Twitter, for example, which is blocked in China, he has Tesla, which operates in China. If a country doesn't like what's being said on Twitter, is he putting himself in a difficult situation?
Well, maybe. I mean, one of the things that is definitely extraordinary about Mr. Musk is that his personality seems to permeate almost everything that he's associated with. Now, it's important to remember that he is not the majority shareholder of Tesla, but he is the most significant shareholder of Tesla. And even earlier reports suggest that they are exploring different ways that Twitter and Tesla might be able to cooperate with one another. I think that that's going to be an issue that they're going to have to deal with going forward. One of the ways to do it is simply to try to, ring fence the two companies away from one another. But once you've moved deliberately into sort of the open global marketplace of ideas, that global marketplace of ideas is also going to be part of your own reputational capital. So it's probably something to be concerned about. I don't think it ever really would have been a deal killer, but part of that's going to hinge on how he makes decisions on what the platform looks like in the next 8 to 12 months.
How do you ring fence those companies, though? I mean, can you do that so long as Elon Musk is running both? If we're talking just Tesla, we haven't even talked about SpaceX, but if he's running Tesla and Twitter.
It's a hard thing to do. And that's been an issue that he has faced in a bunch of other companies, not just Tesla and SpaceX, but also Solar City beforehand. So it would be a difficult maneuver, but people do it. It is one of the things that sort of corporate structures are reasonably good at accommodating.
I have to say, I've enjoyed your Twitter thread here that you put out in terms of lessons learned from this. But point number 9, where you say J screwed, by the way, clever use of the J. Crew logo. You say there may be more fun and games in store. Musk could soon decide to refloat minority public shares with his, as you describe it, fanboys bidding up prices Talk to me about that scenario.
Yeah, there's a couple scenarios that could take place from here, and those are two distinct ones. One is, even though now Twitter, as of today, it's no longer a public company, that doesn't have to be permanently the case. It really is caught up with all of its filings with the SEC. It wouldn't be as big of a lift to try to roll out maybe a small fraction of shares. There are a lot of people out there that just are desperate to own anything that Elon Musk is affiliated with. And so putting out that small fraction of shares could give rise to a pretty good price, which then if you triangulate that against the rest of the stock might generate at least what appears to be a very, very valuable company, which would help Elon Musk in raising capital elsewhere. The other thing is that, while he's trying to increase revenues, he's definitely going to want to try to decrease costs. And one of those big costs that he's going to be facing is the interest payments that is due to his brand new creditors that helped him finance this purchase. The J. Crew, reference was really meant to refer to a whole bunch of different companies that in the last 5 or 6 years have tried to restructure their debt commitments, often in very aggressive ways that sometimes lead to severe conflict between the companies and their creditors. And this often will happen in a situation after a private equity buyout where there's a lot of leverage or debt that has financed the deal.
Elon Musk has said that he doesn't have all the answers regarding what Twitter should look like, how it should change, the town square that he's described. So how do you see this playing out? How do you see this sort of unfolding? Because we are living in a very polarized society. Users have been kicked off permanently from Twitter. So how do you see this going forward?
Well, it seems to me that there are two planes on which he's going to have to be making decisions. One is just revenue generation, cost minimization, and much more sort of work a day. How do you run a business? And that is related to, but not identical to, questions about content moderation and how do you curate this large global community of people interacting with one another. I think Mr. Musk has signaled that he wants to have a very, very big tent and then allow people to sort of self-select themselves into virtual communities in a way that sort of allows every flower to bloom. Twitter had that view before. They have run into issues involving incendiary tweets time and again, and that's what kind of has pushed them into their own current content moderation policies. So it'll be interesting to see whether he can pull that off. Thus far, social media companies have had a difficult time with that.
Professor, we just pointed out in the back you have Sonic the Hedgehog sketched on the board. It's a nice touch.
I do. My daughter put that on the board 5 years ago, and I can't bear myself to erase it, so I just have to get a new whiteboard.
Yeah, we like it. We like it. It's a nice touch there. Appreciate your time today. Columbia Law School professor Eric Talley joining us there.